This week, TD Bank agreed to pay more than $1.2 billion to settle a case involving a $7 billion Ponzi scheme. The Canadian bank said it didn't do anything wrong, but wants to avoid the distraction of a long legal fight. We've got some of the most fascinating Ponzi schemes in history in this week's 5 for Friday. Charles Ponzi was far from the first to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, but they slapped his name on the scheme anyway. In 1920, Ponzi lured investors by offering 50% interest in just 90 days by buying and selling international postal reply coupons. He paid off early investors using money from new investors, raking in $15 million in just 8 months. That's a whopping $232 million today. In the end, he went to prison, got paroled, committed more fraud, went back to prison, and eventually deported to his native Italy. He didn't just launch boy band behemoths NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, bilking them out of money. Lou Pearlman also ran a decades-long Ponzi scheme. He'd get people to invest in companies that only existed on paper, creating fake financial statements to sell them on it. He raked in $300 million, but the feds eventually caught on and he was arrested and sentenced to 25 years in prison. He died 8 years later. Sometimes people win settlements in court that pay out over time, and they can't always wait to collect. There's legitimate business behind this that gives them access to a smaller lump sum, kind of like winning the lottery. But attorney Scott Rothstein corralled investors to pay a lump sum, promising they'd reap the benefits of a larger annuity in the end. Problem was, the cases never existed. Rothstein forged all the docs. He was eventually caught and sentenced to 50 years for running the $1.2 billion scheme. Texas billionaire Allen Stanford's $7 billion scam involved CDs with fantastic, safe returns sold out of his bank in Antigua. Better than you can get anywhere else. Ponzi scheme alert. While Stanford insisted the CDs were backed by actual assets, the SEC said it was a front to fund his lavish lifestyle. He's now serving 110 years in prison as governments try to make his investors whole. Hence TD Bank forking over $1.2 billion to settle the matter. Bernie Madoff's $20 billion Ponzi scheme is one for the history books, and docs, and movies, and TV. As is generally the case, he took in money promising huge returns, but just dumped the $20 billion into an account he used as he pleased, while telling investors the returns were worth $65 billion. The scheme fell apart when the market crashed in 2008 and he couldn't pay anyone out. He was sentenced to 150 years after his sons turned him in. He died in prison 2 years ago. Unfortunately, victims may only find solace in the jail time served by these scammers, as it's gotten harder and harder to recoup the stolen funds. That's 5 for Friday. I'm Simone Del Rosario, and it's just business.